Hello, welcome back. It is Jack Mack with High Top Sports Georgia, and we got a big one rivalry week as the Dogs head south to take on the Gators for the world's largest cocktail party. I'll be there cheering them on. But first, I'm going to cover bets, predictions, analysis heading into this week, as well as a Billy Napier hot seat meter. The Gators have a very tough stretch of their schedule, really, to finish out. And I'll kind of give my thoughts on where I think they may depart with him, set him out to the pasture, as Georgia has done to a couple of these Florida coaches. We'll get into that, as well as just the history of this game since Kirby has been at the helm. Georgia has been pretty dominant. I know Florida was the last team to beat Georgia, not naming Bama back in 2020 with Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, but it's been a while. And Georgia's been dominant in between those times. And, just about that 2020 game, that game is weird in the first place. Let's put a little asterisk, rightfully so, by that game. It was not the last weekend of October that it was played. It was sometime in the middle of November. Not a full stadium, I don't believe. Just a lot of weird vibes around that game. No excuses. But there should be an asterisk behind that game. Anyway, this rivalry is, I believe, the premier rivalry that Georgia plays every season. And I think Kirby makes a point to stress that and emphasize to his players that, hey, no matter what happens, we got to beat the Gators on the last weekend of October. And I think it goes back to Kirby being 1-3 against them as a player, losing that first game against them when he was, first game against Florida as a coach, got beat badly by them. I don't know if you remember Jacob Eason starting in that game. It was an ugly performance, but you can feel it when Kirby speaks at his press conferences that there's some animosity between him and just the Florida Gators organization, I guess. But with that, think to that leaked locker room recording that came out a few years ago. I think it was the year after we lost to them for that first time. There's no mistaking the intensity that he showed through that voice recording, and it made me want to go run through a brick wall. I was still working for the University of Georgia at the time, and it got me fired up. That's just one example of what Kirby brought to this program that we were missing prior to 2017. Just that fire, that fire to, for us fans to see, hey, this guy cares just as much as us for these big time games, and it's everything to him. And as a Georgia fan and SEC fan, that's what you want out of your coach. You just want these type of games, that program, your program, to be the end all be all. And Georgia is so lucky to have Kirby.
Of course, this show is brought to you by BetUS. And when you use the code YouTube150 at betus.com on your first deposit, you get back 150%, up to $2,000. Now you can gamble on NFL, college football, basketball, baseball. The World Series are coming up. We got college football at an all-time high. Heisman winners are going back and forth. Who's going to the SEC? Who's going to the Big 12? All kinds of things. You can literally gamble on anything you set your pretty little mind to. And on your second and third deposit, you get back 125%, up to $2,000. So be sure to go check out betus.com. Use the code YouTube150 to take advantage of these offers while they still last. Now back to the show.
Be that for this university, and with this rivalry, I just think it brings the best out of Georgia. If you look back to our first national championship, even the second national championship, this game kind of propelled Georgia to finish out those seasons. The Missouri, every year there's always going to be some hiccups, some slow moments throughout the year. Georgia's had their issues with Kentucky, Missouri, but Florida has been the get right game. The defense gets right against them. The Felipe Franks, Anthony Richardson had themselves terrible afternoons against these great Georgia defenses, multiple turnovers, scoring on defense. So this game is important for that respect as well. To show that intensity and to have that intensity in this game carry us out through the rest of the season, into the SEC championship game, into the playoff, is going to be big. So no matter where Florida is record-wise, Georgia needs to come out and punch him in the mouth early, because you do not want to be in a fourth quarter game with Florida when you're the better team. we've seen how that goes with rivalry games. Alabama, Auburn, even when Auburn's bad, they get it to the fourth quarter. They can sometimes pull a rabbit out of the hat. So got to take care of them early. I look to our defense to have another one of those games. I mean, I know we just came off of an unbelievable Texas performance, getting after the quarterback like never before, strip sack after strip sack, turnovers, hitting like Georgia hits. So I expect to see more of that. Jalen Walker, excuse me. I spoke earlier with Shelton about Georgia needing to find that voice on defense, the leader, man in the huddle, to take over. And Jalen Walker has been that guy. He has been nothing short of an animal on the edge, dominating these first round picks from Texas a couple weeks ago. So look to Georgia to really just excel and further what they found in that Texas game, practicing against Florida, and just show that same intensity that they did a couple weeks ago. Getting into Billy Napier hot seat rumors. Saw a quote earlier this week of a booster saying that the magic number is 7 for Billy Napier to stay at Florida. They're at 4 wins right now. They play Georgia. They play Texas next week at Texas. They play Ole Miss, LSU, Florida State. Let me tell you right now, there's not a chance in hell that that's going to happen. I put it at about a 20% chance that even get to 6. I find they can probably beat Florida State. I don't see how they beat any of those other teams. And especially after what Georgia does to them on Saturday, I think Georgia is going to put on a clinic. Trending at the right time, got Florida coming in on a hot streak with that good game against Kentucky. I think after what Georgia does to him Saturday, Billy Napier is not going to be able to put together the pieces and rebound against Texas. I just think it's too much to ask of a Florida team, of a freshman quarterback. So sorry, Shelton, but I think this is the beginning of the end for the Billy Napier era. Hopefully not the DJ Lagway era. I've heard rumors that he may go where Billy goes. So I know that's a big piece in all of this. But yeah, I don't see how Billy Napier survives the season. I don't see how he makes it through November, to be honest with you. And that's sad as a Georgia fan. I would love to see him a couple more Saturdays in October going forward, because it's been good to Georgia of late. So that's the feel within the Florida program. The boosters got some mixed feelings, it seems, but there will be no mixed feelings, I believe, after what happens on Saturday on the field. They will see the disparity, the difference that they have to make up to compete against Georgia year in and year out. And right now, Billy's not cutting it. I mean, he can recruit, but putting it on the field and having that consistency week after week, it's not been there. So pressure is on the Gators. I know Georgia is the higher ranked team, but I still think pressure is squarely on Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. And I think it's just asking a lot to have DJ Lagway go against this defense. I know he can run a little bit, and that gives Georgia some issues, but it would take a Herculean effort from DJ Lagway and a terrible effort from Carson Beck for them to even be in this game, in my opinion. So kind of how I believe it gets done, ETN is going to be a man possessed, I believe, coming back, going against Florida Gators. Kind of came out, burst onto the scene against Texas with a good game. Heard rumblings that, I mean, in the locker room, it's ETN is their most valuable player, which is weird to think. I mean, we were expecting a lot more out of him heading into this season, but he showed up when it mattered most against Texas with those few touchdowns, trending at the right time. I mean, we want our running backs gaining steam in this part of the year, really starting to run downhill. Thinking Kendall Milton, he kind of had a similar trajectory, had a slow start to the year last year, but towards the end of the season, Kendall Milton, I mean, was a machine against Alabama. He really turned it on, and I think that's just a trait of these Georgia running backs. As the season gets on, they get stronger. They do, because there's multiple guys in the backfield. They're more fresh. So I look for ETN to show that freshness this week, us to pound the rock early and often, um, and lean on our defense. I expect this to be more of an old school SEC Georgia Florida game. Lean on the defense, run the football. Don't make Carson Beck do too much. I want him to get some confidence, short throws, but really just get our guys in space. I mean, we've had a lot of success just throwing screens to the running back, throwing screens to our wide receivers. So I look for honestly, a simple game plan. Florida's defense has not shown much ability to stop other effective offenses. So I think Kirby keeps it pretty vanilla. Bobo keeps it pretty vanilla. Maybe see some of the younger guys. Frazier get some looks later in the game. But I think this is going to be a running back game. We've seen for the most part of this year, it's been Carson Beck, big numbers, some interceptions, but still big numbers. A lot of the movement has been through the air. I expect this to go back to the old way of doing things and a little bit more of a running first approach. Now with the line started at 17.5. My first thought is nowhere near enough. As the week has progressed, it's gone down to 14.5. So I don't know what people are seeing. I think people are drinking the DJ Lagway Kool-Aid a little bit too much, but I will just tell you, if you are, just go back, watch Anthony Richardson and tell yourself, do you think DJ Lagway is better than Anthony Richardson? I know Anthony Richardson is not doing too hot right now in the NFL, quitting on his team. Sounds like a Florida thing to do. Anyway, but he's not even Anthony Richardson level. And Anthony Richardson couldn't – he had what? He didn't even have 100 yards passing against Georgia. He had 3 turnovers in a 2-minute span. So Georgia could really – I know I'm stressing this point, but we've seen when Georgia clicks on defense – and especially a young quarterback, it can make it hell, really. And I expect it to be a lot like that on Saturday afternoon. Turnovers galore out of DJ Lagway. I mean, sure, he may scramble, have a few good plays, but the consistency of his play is going to have to be all-time high to be able to just stay into this game in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, if you're drinking the DJ Lagway Kool-Aid with the 17.5, I would say watch Anthony Richardson, see what he did. He was second overall pick to the NFL, and look how he fared. So Georgia minus 14.5, Georgia minus whatever. I think they're going to win by 3 touchdowns. Easy. I don't see how Florida – I mean, Georgia's going to score 40 for sure. And Florida – I guess we'll go with a score prediction here. Georgia's going to score 41. And Florida's going to be at 10. So it's going to be 41-10. Dogs on top in an easy victory. Propels the Dogs into the rest of their season, into Ole Miss, into Tennessee. And I think it really hits home to a lot of these experts and, college football fans in general watching this game is Georgia's still at the top. I know we had a glimpse of it against Texas, but we need to see a little bit more consistency for, people around the country to really be like, all right, let's stop and say, all right, the national championship, everything still goes through Athens, still goes through Georgia, still goes through Kirby, still goes through that defense. And I think that point will be emphasized this Saturday. Last thoughts. I would love to hear, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but I would love to hear another leaked locker room. I don't know who it is that did that a few years ago, but come on. One of the walk-ons, somebody. We need something as fans like we did a few years ago to get us going. I know it gets the players going from what they show on the field, but yeah, it's going to be an easy one this Saturday. Dogs in a rout. Thanks for watching. It is Jack with High Top Sports Georgia, and go Dogs.